Yeah, happy Monday, 3/6/2017. Don't have any really big shout outs nor any huge rants, but just cruising around and thinking about doing something on the top 10 with some um, YouTube stuff that happened last year. But um, I think the biggest thing that interests me is watching Joe Rogan Experience and how the fact that he's got kind of the same temperament as me, where it's like he really likes eclectic stuff. You know, he's a stand-up comic um, who is pretty much the voice of the UFC. Um, and it's where I actually first got in contact with him. Then I found out he was a stand-up, and then blah blah blah. Um, but just find his stuff interesting, and the people that he has on his podcast interesting, and a lot of the topics. And he's pretty rational as far as when people come on. I saw him do something with, it was just a bit, it wasn't the whole episode, but with Stephen Chowder, and it was Stephen kind of uh, not being supportive of the pot movement and stuff like that. And it's anyway, it's just fascinating to me because Rogan is right on a lot of the cases of the propaganda that was connected to the pot movement when it got illegalized. There's way more connected to the fact that it was an industrial product than the psychotropic uses of it. And I find it fascinating. Like in California, there's a thing called comfrey root, and it's supposed to be a bone healing root. They One of the other terms they call it is bone knit, but it's supposed to speed up the process of like a fractured bone or a broken bone, and it's illegal in California. Um, and it's just, I don't know, a lot of things that are connected to the medical arena kind of, they don't, I mean, they don't puzzle me or baffle me, but it's like, I mean, I get it, but it's like, it's one of those things that's all connected to politics and the fact that you get some company that has enough lobbying money that they go in and they lobby to get a bill in or a law enacted. It's way different than um, sometimes a face value uh, purpose that they're trying to legalize something. They're trying to say that basically the psychotropic aspect of marijuana is why they legalize it, and that's only like 3% of the overall strains of hemp, which is basically cannabis. Um, but it's the lobbying aspect. I mean, only in politics you can give somebody money to do something, and it's called lobbying. In other places, it's called blackmail. I just find it very, very interesting. That's why a lot of the kids, like I drive a motorcycle, and the fact is, when I first got my motorcycle license in 1987, uh, we didn't have to wear a helmet. It was basically optional. And then come 90, I think it was 92, 91 or 92, they got the helmet law um, enacted in California as mandatory because the insurance companies and the helmet companies basically gave lobbying money to get it enacted. And insurance companies, it was because they were paying out too much on fatalities. Um, and I mean, obviously, it booms business if you're a helmet company to lobby that. You know, you pay 10% and you get 90% profit off of it. Makes perfect sense. But anyways, in every other situation, it's considered different. But in politics, it's called lobbying, and that's why a lot of laws and stuff that are face value, I don't. I mean, I try to adhere to them as best as possible, but I just look at a lot of laws, and it's like if you try to look behind the curtain of the wizard, um, you'll see exactly why they were enacted, and it's not necessarily for the population's benefit. So, anyways, I didn't mean to go on that diatribe or down that little rabbit hole. What I meant to say was I like Rogan's podcast because they're informative and quirky and eclectic, and they're usually people of a heightened profession that is they're high in their professional standards, or they're one of the first people that has come out with a certain thing in their professional standards. He has a lot of comedians on, promotes his brethren, and what's kind of cool too is he has a group of people that they help each other out, and that's good to see because it's like a lot of the stand-up world is not necessarily supportive until you get to another level. But I found improv a lot more supportive. I've done stand-up. I didn't find the stand-up world as supportive. You know, but whatever on that. It might just be a personal bias on my end or just my personal experience. But anyways, I find his podcast fascinating, and it's like they had something on. Like he also brings like a couple of the big name YouTubers on. Phil DeFranco was on, and they were talking about some things happening with PewDiePie, which kind of opened my eyes, and I went and checked it out where it was kind of taken out of context and, you know, all these different things. But I find it fascinating because he taps into a lot of what is interesting to me, and we're the same age. I think I'm a month older than him. He was born in August, and I was born in July of '67. But I find it fascinating with his interests. They're vast and varied, and same with mine. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Sometimes if you have niche stuff that you build, you know, it's that old adage, the jack of all trades, but master of none. But in his case, he's a pretty adept stand-up comic and obviously UFC commentator because he loves the sport and he actually trains. But anyways, I find his podcast fascinating, and there's a lot of tidbits that I've run across. He's the one that clued me into the 2 girls in 1 cup situation where I finally went off. And it wasn't offline. I went off YouTube and went into Google and found it in the open forums there. Obviously, YouTube wouldn't have it because of the terms and conditions, but it is on Google. It's hard to find, but I did eventually find it and was like, whatever. But anyways, if you guys get a chance, go check out his podcast. He's got tons of followers, and like I said, his interests are vast and varied. He'll have like Graham Hancock on, who's a published author. He'll have Neil deGrasse on. So I mean, it's like basically he goes the gamut, and it's like he also has people on that he worked with, like Andy Dick, and so that's it weaves through, and then UFC people like who I love too is Boss Rutan. I just think he's hilarious and pretty savage fighter, but it's like he's got a great sense of humor on him. But so anyways, go check his podcast out if you get a chance, and you guys have an awesome Monday, and we'll talk to you hopefully Tuesday. Bye.